great leadership question from Reddit. How can an introvert show leadership? Now, I get this question all the time that how can an introvert be a leader? Well, I've got good news for you. Yes, even introverts can be good leaders. And I want to share a few examples and a few ways in which you can reframe your perspective. And if you're an introvert, you could be a leader too. In this post, they actually said that, hey, look, they work in a company, they'll get a bad performance review, they improved, and their managers or their leaders said, hey, this is great, but we actually want to see more leadership from you. How can we see more leadership? The first thing I think you need to understand that if you aspire to leadership role, maybe it's because your manager, your leader, actually sees leadership potential in you already. If they're actually saying, hey, I want you to display more leadership, it's because they actually see that potential in you. Now, does that mean you need to step up and you need to take over projects and be the lead person on the project? No, we need to look at what the core of what leadership is. The core of leadership is helping others perform at their best. Because we can be in a role and we can be purely focused on our role and us doing the best we can and just improving our own skills and doing the best for us. But if our influence doesn't expand out beyond just the work that we're doing, then we're not leading. You don't need the leadership role, you don't need the position, you just need to start influencing others. Because here was one of my biggest challenges in leadership is I thought being the best leader was being the best performer. Right? That was the way I always thought that my leadership was, is like, well, I'm the best performer, so I'm the leader. No, the best performer is not always leader. Actually, the best performer is quite often not the leader, because if you're the best performer, you're usually focused on just your own performance. And usually in a team, the best performer should just focus on being the best performer because that's best for the overall team, and so they're not going to be the team leader. So yes, it's great that you have increased your skills. It's great that you've become better at what you've done. But my question is what have you done in your growth in your skills that has bled out or kind of influenced others? Is there a new skill or technique that you've found to do your job better that you've shared with your other teammates? Is there something that you've identified that your teammates are doing wrong, or maybe not even wrong, but maybe slowing them down and not making them completely efficient? Maybe you can start sharing with them, start supporting them, because that's what leadership is. It's about supporting those people around you and helping them be the best versions of themselves. If you want to start showing leadership and you're an introvert, just think about how can I start influencing other people. This is something that frustrates me. People wait until they're in a leadership position to start leading people. But the best way you become a leader is by literally becoming a leader. And eventually your organization, your team will recognize that, and then you'll be promoted into a position of leadership. But start practicing now. Now, I alluded to it before about the rah-rah type of leader, and I said that that's a small part of leadership. That's why it's really important for you to understand the difference between a direct leader and an indirect leader. The indirect leader is usually the extrovert, the outspoken one, the one that's screaming from the front, the one that's rah-rah and everything. But that is only the initial stages of leadership and the initial thing that a leader needs to be able to do. Because after we've gotten everyone hyped, we need to make sure everything gets done. And that is where the direct leader, and I almost said introverted leader, because usually that's better suited to an introvert, is to lead people directly, which means the one-on-one, it's the mentoring, it's the support, it's how do we make sure this goes on. I don't want you to try to become someone that you're not, because that's the biggest mistake you'll make in trying to become a leader, is if you try to emulate someone else. If you emulate someone else, you're a fraud, you're a pretender. You're a faker, and it might serve you for a little bit, might actually serve you for many years. And I've seen a lot of leaders that have been pretending to be someone else they're not for many, 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 many years. But when it comes to the crunch, it all falls around them. Because when it actually matters, you need to be true to yourself. So don't try to be someone else. Don't try to, well, I need to be more extroverted or whatever. No. Just think of it, and here's the reason why that happens, unfortunately, is because it's usually the extroverts, it's usually the indirect leaders that are getting the spotlight. They're the ones that write the books, that are speaking on stage, that are running programs, that are getting highlighted at conferences and things like that. Because they are extrovert and they're out there, everyone thinks that that's what leadership is. But for every one indirect leader that is on stage or in the spotlight or whatever, There are a million more leaders in this world just leading quietly in the background, making sure that people around them are performing at their best, making sure their team have the support that they need, make sure that they're encouraged, make sure that they're sharing, because that is where leadership really comes alive, is in the trenches, not on the stage, but in the trenches. Now, there's one thing I will actually mention to this, and everyone's saying, like, what if I want to become a leader? What if, like, how do I become a leader? Well, I'm gonna throw it out there, and it's gonna be in your face. Maybe you're not meant to be a leader. Now, I'm gonna back that up by saying, I believe we're all called to lead. I believe we're all called to lead. However, we're not all called to lead everywhere, right? Some of us were just called to lead our friends. Some of us were just called to lead in our families. Some of us are called to, I believe there is always an element of leadership in our life. But we're not all called to be leaders at work. We're not all called to be leaders in the workforce, right? Because if we were, who would we be leading? There'd be a million leaders out there leading the charge with no teams to actually execute on the things, right? And so that's where it comes back to understanding your purpose. Now, if your leader, I'm talking about this article, if your leader has actually asked you to display a little bit more leadership, maybe it is because they actually see some leadership potential in you. Are you actually called to be a leader? And I would hazard a guess, if your leader is telling you, hey, I want you to display a little bit more leadership potential, that's because they see the potential in you already. They just want you to like live in the fullness of your purpose. And that's a great leader. That's a great leader that sees that potential in you. And so maybe emulate that in other people. See the potential in other people, not for them to be leaders, but see the potential in them to be a better programmer, because that was your role. You're a computer programmer. Maybe you're whatever it is, a better project manager. Maybe giving them feedback of how they can give instructions or reviews or whatever to you. If you're helping other people grow around you, that is real leadership. And so don't think that, well, everyone's going to be a leader and I have to be a leader. Know your purpose. And are you actually called to be a leader? Is that part of your purpose? Is that part of what, God's put you on this earth for? I hazard a guess that if someone else is saying that to you, they see the potential in you. But also know yourself. Just because someone else is saying it, maybe they're saying it for selfish reasons. Maybe they're actually saying, hey, we want you to be a leader because they actually want to dump off a bunch of responsibility to you and they couldn't be bothered finding someone better. Whatever. It happens. Unfortunately, there's a lot of poor leadership in this world. I encourage you, know yourself. Do you actually want to be a leader? Do you feel like it's part of your calling? Do you think it's part of what you're... And to know that, you need to actually learn leadership. You need to understand leadership. Learn about it to see, is this something that gels with you? Is it something you're interested in? And then you'll be able to know, is this right for me or not? Because if it's not, there's no point in you focusing on it. Now, here's the thing. Even if it's not meant for you, doesn't mean you can't help people around you. Doesn't mean you can't be a small leader in leading the one or two people that are next to you at the desks. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean you can't influence those people to become better. It doesn't mean you just become selfish and insular, right? But maybe you remove that pressure from your mind of, now I need to move up the leadership ladder. And it kind of leads me to the last point is, I spoke about learning about leadership. For you to actually understand if you should be a leader, you need to learn about it. My encouragement is, how does an introvert become a leader? Or how does an introvert show leadership? Get a mentor. Learn, study, but get a mentor that can help you grow into your leadership. Find someone in your organization that you recognize that you really gel with their leadership style. It may not be your direct leader. It may be someone else in the organization that you've seen that they're also an introvert, but they're doing a really good job with their team, or you like their culture, or you like their values, or there's something that just gels with you that you're like, I actually really like this person, and I want to become like them. Not pretend to be them, but I want to learn from them so I can learn, because there's something that they have that I want. And so my encouragement to you is, if you want to show leadership, you have to learn it, you have to study it, and you have to find a leadership mentor that will help you grow into the fullness of your potential and actually rise to the occasion of your leadership potential.